The moment is here, you can stop your search. It's Comics by Perch.
Hey, what happened to Rescue? Remember Pepper Potts got the Rescue armor? People wanted that armor to be called the Iron Maiden, but Matt Fraction, what? I don't remember exactly how the story goes, but there was something like they were worried about either trademarks or that Iron Maiden would sound sexist in some weird way. I don't recall what was going on there, but anyway, there was a storyline when Matt Fraction was writing Iron Man, and the storyline basically had Tony Stark had to delete his brain, so to speak, and Norman Osborn was in charge. That was the Dark Avengers time, and it was Tony Stark deconstructed. I think was what they were calling the arc, and it was fine. It had some okay art. It wasn't the best storyline. I mean, I think Fraction got kind of lost throughout the whole thing. It was one of those stories that was kind of the bridge between former Marvel and modern Marvel, where it was still trying to do some of the things that former Marvel was doing, but it was also getting involved in a lot of the kind of the overuse of tropes and things that we see a lot from Marvel today. But one part of that storyline was that Tony had gotten the rescue armor to Pepper Potts, and the rescue armor was supposed to protect her, but there was this weird catch in it, and that it didn't actually have any offensive capabilities. It just could, which was absurd, by the way, but it could only like help. It was an armor designed, and Fraction made a big deal about this, talking about like finally it's a superhero whose primary mission is to help, not shoot deadly energy blasts, and this is we're finally going to actually have a hero that is trying to do heroic things. And it was one of those things that when you read it at the time, you're like, wait, what? But it was an indication of where things would go in the future, about how kind of a lot of the publishers and the creators started to want to make this kind of meta commentary about are the heroes doing more damage than good, and are they with all their flashy powers, shouldn't they be instead, if they're super rich, investing their money into social programs? Like why doesn't Tony Stark create foundations? Like say he could create a foundation called like the Maria Stark Foundation, and it could help the needy. Oh wait, that is that he did actually do that. All right. Well, anyway, this has become part of that whole Twitter generation of why don't the rich heroes, they're by fighting crime, they're actually perpetuating the crime, and instead they beat up on the marginalized and the homeless. Just insert all the words. But this was a little bit like that. It was the idea of like, hey, we're going to create a new character, a new character that's like a legacy character, but not quite. It's Pepper Potts, and Pepper Potts is going to get armor, but her armor is better than the other armor, because her armor is really just designed to heal and protect, and not attack and blow up buildings and stuff. And again, the reason I said that was absurd earlier is because if you put a person in an armor that can fly around at Mach 1, I mean, what's to stop Pepper Potts from just like having a pissy day and like going down to the beach, just spreading her arms and just accelerating into a crowd? It'd chop people in half. The armor, good. You took away the repulsor rays, but I think it still could do a hell of a lot of damage, because it's a giant, super futuristic space, armor that can go into space and blow things up. Anyway, I don't, what am I saying? But whatever happened to that? So what is interesting is you would think that they would have done more with it. Marvel did more with Jane Foster Thor. They had this storyline. Now they're actually apparently bringing back Jane Foster Thor, and of course they are, because she's going to appear in the movie, and it's the right time. But Pepper Potts briefly appeared in Avengers Endgame with with the rescue armor, and so it was a thing. Now I don't know if Gwyneth Paltrow would pause of selling vagina candles in order to that's a thing she actually sells. It's not me making a weird joke, but anyway, if she would be willing to go back and do a rescue only movie, I mean, I suspect if Disney rolled out a wheelbarrow full of money, she would do it. Now, I don't know anybody would want to watch that thing, but it is curious that Rescue showed up earlier. I think this is around 2010, 2011. So this is before a lot of the kind of race swap, gender swap, legacy characters. Rescue was one of the first, and it didn't take, but they kept trying, and it is kind of curious that they haven't really done more with it since. I mean, as it's gone by. In fact, they went to Riri Williams. They kind of went at it again. They're like, maybe the problem here is that we replaced Tony Stark Iron Man with a woman, but she's still white, and worst of all, red hair. I mean, the red hair is truly the sin in all things. But the character, I don't know. It was an interesting test because I think it also revealed a little bit that, hey, people got Pepper Potts into the armor, but then kind of came to the conclusion, hey, we don't really, Pepper Potts is not that interesting to write, and we don't really know what to do with her. And she's a supporting character, but we don't really know what to do. Like, we can't come up with a compelling storyline here for this character. So let's just quietly get it back to Tony, and we'll try again in a few years with Riri Williams. It is peculiar though, that's the one legacy kind of swap character they did that didn't take, and everybody just kind of quietly seemed to walk away from, even though that one did wind up getting up into the movies before many of the others. I think that was one of the first. Is that the first? I think that's the first one that actually showed up in the MCU as a character. I guess Laura kind of appeared in that Wolverine movie about the same time, but that was positioned very differently. They didn't position that as hey, she's here and she's the real Wolverine. It was Laura. It was a clone. There's been talk, I know a lot, about taking the Tony Stark Iron Man family and expanding it out. And I mean, you have War Machine already. Although, in fairness, as long as we're on the subject, they don't do much with War Machine either. Rhodes shows up barely in comic books, and most of his appearances these days are showing up to be kind of Carol's on again, off again boyfriend. Like, they're dating, and then now they're not. Now she's sleeping with Doctor Strange. And now they're dating. Are they dating? Not what? Maybe they're not really. Now she's hanging out with her besties at a club in Vegas, and I don't know. Who knows? That really is all he does. And War Machine. I mean, this is a character with some legacy that dates back to the '70s. I mean, if you compare, and a lot of people compared at the time, we got James Rhodes taking over Iron Man, and we have John Stewart taking over Green Lantern. So if you look at how it all kind of worked out. Stewart is hanging out with the Justice League, got a cartoon, is he's got a big profile. They do a decent amount with him. Whereas, Rhodes shows up vaguely. I mean, they tried in the 90s and kind of the early 2000s to do something. They gave him a Max title, and then they tried that book where he was computer generated for a while, and that didn't really take. And so every now and then, usually when they need to kill somebody off, like, Bendis is like, I'm going to do an event and I need to redshirt one of the heroes right out the gate. I know. What's Rhodes doing? No, nobody cares what old Rhodey's doing. Let's pull him in here and murder him off because that is very progressive. Wait, no, I don't know. But that's really where that character's at. But it's kind of like Rescued. Like, neither one of them Marvel has done much with, even though they're sitting out there where they've played with a lot of other legacy characters. It's kind of curious. But what I was getting to is there's a lot of there's been a lot of discussion about building up the Iron Man family in the same way you build up the Green Lantern family. Like, why not go ahead and get some armor to 20 other people? We could do that and just have a whole family of Iron Men running around. I mean, and in fairness, it would be pretty easy to do. We've seen that Tony keeps all that armor hanging around, so why not just start handing it out? And I think, every now and then I get asked that, like, do you ever think we'll get like the Iron Man family? And my answer always is like, Jesus Christ, no, please no. Like it's good when the characters are unique. We do not need the extended Iron Man family. I mean, in theory, War Machine and Rescue are still out there. They still have their armors. They can still do things. You got Riri out there. You got Tony Stark out there. I mean, you got 4 characters running around already, which is 3 characters too many. I would argue, but anyway, I don't know. Do you miss Rescue? I don't miss Rescue. It was always a weird concept, but it is interesting how it was not the patient zero, but a very early indication of what Marvel was going to try and do in the later 2010s. And yeah, that worked out great. Thanks for listening.